I am going to turn $10,000 into $100,000 with altcoins in 2025. And in today's video, I am going to share with you my exact plan on how I intend to do that. Now, the sad truth is, unfortunately, most people in crypto will not have that sort of glory and glamour that can come along with it because they just gamble without a plan. Now, you may also feel the same, but at some point, I feel like we've always bought high and sold low. And it takes losing money to change direction, to think of why you failed and create a plan. And that plan is this video. This video will mark the start of a brand new journey you and I are taking together to 10x my crypto portfolio right from the very start to the end, where I end up with $100,000 or even possibly more. I'm going to be revealing the specific altcoins I'm targeting, exactly when I plan to buy them, and most importantly, my detailed exit strategy to lock in profits. So of course, if you are interested in how I'm approaching this market, what I'm buying, when I'm selling, when I'm doing transfers and all the rest of it, make sure you hit that like button, but you are subscribed to keep track of what we end up doing here. And with that being said, let's begin. Let me start off here with some cold, hard truths. And it is cold and it definitely is hard to swallow. 95% of us watching this video are going to end up losing money or barely even breaking even in this bull run. And the main reason why is because most people do not have a strategy. The key difference between the people who make money, that 5%, and the 95% who don't, isn't luck, guys. It's having a very clear plan before you even invest a single dollar. I remember in 2021 watching my portfolio hit $210,000 from a $20,000 investment, only to hold too long and walk away with less than half of that amount that I put in. I'm talking about $10,000. Okay, I'm not making that mistake again, guys, and I do not want you to make that same mistake either. Now, this is video one in this new trading series we're starting, and what that really means is that we're going to have to go over some ground rules, so to speak. There are very important principles that you and I need to talk about, and there are 7 to be exact. Now, these 7 principles, in my personal opinion, are no joke. Again, they're the reason why I think 95% of people don't actually make money in crypto, and I think investing in general. It is, again, the very groundwork that makes a good investor or trader. So number 1 here is goal setting. Now, we know we need a 10x, turning $10,000 into $100,000. So that's, of course, easy. But for the remainder of this series, the goal of $100,000 specifically is to buy my family a new house. Okay, that's the clear goal. So setting this clear goal is extremely important, right? Because it really does determine what market caps you have to focus on and how many multiples you need to obtain overall. Okay, so for example, if you need a 50x to achieve your goal, let's say that 50x was buying the new house, then there's honestly no point in buying Solana, as it's only going to really yield you a realistic 3 to 5x from here. So it's only going to hold the portfolio back. Likewise, of course, if you only need a 5x, there's no point buying a 10 million market cap coin because it's just adding unnecessary risk to your portfolio. So I need you guys to think about it like this. If you absolutely need a 50x to achieve your goal, then a coin like Solana at a 50 billion market cap would need to reach $2.5 trillion market cap to hit your target. And then you have to have sell levels from there. That's the same market cap as Apple, and that's currently bigger than Bitcoin. So core principle number 2 is wants versus needs, right? So when it does come to goal setting, there is a big difference between a want and a need. Now, a want is something like a nice car, a brand new house, or a Gucci bag just because you kind of want that. I want a Lamborghini, for example, right? But a need is something that you require to achieve that next stage in your financial freedom. That could be a first investment property, $20,000 cash for a buffer zone, maybe in case something bad happens, or paying off college debt. Something, again, that unlocks a new level of financial freedom for you. Now, in my case, for this video series at least, I need $100,000 because I need to buy that new house for my family because let's say our current situation isn't so good or we're renting, we just want to level up, right? That's the goal we're aiming for here. Now, this clarity will absolutely help decide what multiples I truly do need to reach to achieve my goal. Without this, the goals will just keep stacking up, and all of a sudden I need to turn $1,000 into $10 billion, and it's just never going to end up getting to that point. Principle 3 is risk tolerance. Now, I think that this topic's probably been discussed a lot more recently because of the huge market crash altcoins have obviously experienced. A lot of people are realizing, well, we should have been a little bit more careful with how much money we put in the market, right? So I think what's happened is that most people have unintentionally invested way more than they're really willing to lose, which is why the average crypto investor, I think, is very quick to panic sell at the drop of any slight bit of bad news. Seeing yourself lose money that you need for this month's rent is, I think, why sentiment does get so low in bad market conditions. So I need you to actually ask yourself, how much am I really willing to lose? Now, in my case with this series, I'm not happy to lose $10,000. No one's happy to lose any money at all. But if we lose that money, then that is okay. It's not going to ruin my life. Principle 4 is hedging. But what do I mean by hedging? Well, while this is a bull run series, and while I do still think, of course, the bull run is going to happen, there is actually a very reasonable chance that it doesn't for a whole host of reasons. So I'm hedging at all times into the appropriate market conditions with the coins I hold at that time. And considering right now the bull run is a little up in the air, so to speak, some people may say anyway, the coins I'm starting with here need to be the best of the best, the so-called cream of the crop. In the worst possible case, of course, these starting altcoins, in my opinion, should be more than capable of surviving the worst possible conditions. And of course, I'm talking about a bear market. But importantly, these coins are all in separate narratives, just in case one narrative somehow self-implodes, like AI recently saw for a little while there with the DeepSeek news. Now, that kind of backs onto number 5 here, which is diversification. In my opinion, diversification in any crypto portfolio is like crucial, guys, but spreading too thin is also quite bad as well. So what I do think is diversification needs to be done in 3 different ways. Number 1 is the number of coins you own. Number 2 is the market cap sizes of the coins you own. And number 3 is the number of narratives you are in. I'll be talking more about this as the coins come and go in the series, but generally speaking, my goal is to at all times hold no fewer than 5 coins, no more than 10 coins, and to be spread across at least 5 different narratives and mainly in the top 200 market cap coins. Number 6 here is the fundamentals, and this is the main reason why I buy the altcoins that I do. Being a combination of things like the uniqueness of a coin, the narrative, the team tokenomics, and even the marketing strength. Because I really cannot stress this enough, buying altcoins for this bull run that are not explicitly focusing on retail investors like you and me, for example, these coins will just not do as well as others that focus on that. That's why meme coins, for example, offer nothing, and yet they're the most sought after coins in crypto. And we've finally reached number 7, which is DCA and ladder selling. So DCA, otherwise known as dollar cost averaging, is just buying a coin over the course of time and not just aping all in at once, and ladder selling is, of course, just the complete opposite. Now, I'll be doing this over the course of time, but I can tell you right now, there is going to be a situation where this rule is changed depending on what the Bitcoin cycle clock and the market conditions at the time give us. If there's a massive crash, you go heavier in. If it's not so favorable for buying, right, so markets are going up, you, of course, just simply don't DCA at all. All right, we made it. With all that out the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video. Now, I want to first of all talk about the coins and narratives I'm eyeing off in these current market conditions. First of all, I'm trying to buy altcoins that hit multiple different narratives square on the head while also targeting the best narratives in crypto overall. For example, Injective INJ is mainly focused on real-world assets, its tokenization, of course, AI, Layer 1, DeFi, and it does all of those things really, really well. So what that means for me buying this is that if any of those narrative pumps happen, like AI starts popping off, Injective should at least see some surge in growth because it is primarily, that's the key word, primarily associated with the AI narrative. Now, the narratives I'll be focusing on, for now at least, will be AI, real-world assets, tokenization, same thing, right? Layer 1, DeFi, and USA-based projects. So again, the goal is to hit multiple of these with one single altcoin, as I mentioned with Injective. Now, I've left out gaming here. Some of you might be asking, well, what's happening with gaming? Gaming is a good narrative, kind of like gaming. Well, yes, it is a good narrative, and I do still believe in it. But I do, at this point in time, see far more strength in the narratives I just mentioned to you. Gaming, I think, is more of a much higher multiple potential narrative that I think I'll move more into as the euphoria part of the cycle does begin to pick up. Now, I am also going to be looking for top 200 market cap coins for right now for three main reasons. Now, the first is because our goal suits these type of high market cap coins, right? We don't need to look for a 10 million market cap coin. Number two is they're as risky as I'm willing to go in these market conditions. And number three, they should pump first when the market eventually turns around here at any moment. Now, since we have $10,000 to spend, the easiest breakup would just simply be dividing $10,000 into 10 coins. So we'll have about $1,000 in each coins. And pretty much from there, just ensure we're buying 2 altcoins in each narrative. So essentially 10 altcoins, 1,000 in each, and 5 different direct narratives. But remember, since each altcoin should be able to hit at least 2 narratives if we play our cards correctly, we should be able to get around 10 total narratives. We really do take that $10,000 and we stretch it very far and wide. Again, diversification without adding more altcoins. That could look something like buying Ondo, which is at a market cap of about 2.6 billion right now and is a top 50 altcoin, and then buying Plume, which is the 330 million market cap coin and just outside the top 200, but they're both in real world asset narratives. Since Ondo hits RWA, DeFi, and the USA narrative, and Plume also hits, in addition to that, the layer 1 narrative, we're now completely covered with like 4 or 5 different narratives with only $2,000. Since Ondo has a much higher market cap than Plume, I'll be investing about $1,250 into Ondo and a little less, so the $750 into Plume without changing multiples, right? So this simple shift reduced risk without much tinkering. Ondo, I believe, will still 10x from these levels, but it's just much safer than a coin like Plume. Of course, we can always adjust this as time progresses. Now, the next narrative I believe we must hit is, of course, AI. The only difference between AI and real-world assets is that AI, I believe, is a much more fiercely competitive market than real-world assets. So this is why I'm going to stick to just 2 high market cap altcoins rather than do what I did with Ondo and Plume and have one in the top 50 and one in the top 200. In my opinion, the 2 clear winners here are Near Protocol and ASI or FET, both of which double into the AI agent and layer 1 narratives as well. So again, we are branching out a bit more here with our capital. I'll also be picking up ICP and Hedera for my layer 1 coins, Chainlink and Render for my USA coins, and my DeFi coins will also be Aerodrome and Injective. So let's recap here. What I'm doing is putting 20% of my portfolio in RWA coins, 20% in AI, 20% in layer 1, and 20% in USA coins, while also putting 20% into DeFi. All of the biggest narratives, of course, the best coins in those narratives, I believe. However, the number of narratives we're hitting here is much more than just the ones I've mentioned. I've put the total number of narratives on the screen now, so you can actually go ahead and see that. I've also included the multiples in this little plan sheet you can see here as well, because there is some shuffling I do want to do with some of these multiples overall. This is, I believe, diversification at its finest. We're in some of the absolute best coins and the best narratives and with the most possible amount of crossover as we can. But of course, I won't be waiting for a simple 10x on these coins. That wouldn't make for a very good trading series, even though that's probably one of the best decisions the average armchair investor could do, right? The more you play around with it, the more risk that you honestly open up. But of course, I'll be bringing you guys updates on how I intend to compound the returns at very key moments along the next 12 or so months. But here's the thing, I'm still going to be entering automatic 10x, or roughly speaking 10x, my average buy price sell levels, because in the situation that something does happen to me, any host of things could happen within the next 12 months, and for whatever reason I can't make it to a computer, at least I know if I do come back that I do have an automatic trigger for sells on each of these coins depending on the multiples I have intended for them. And all that really means is that in the worst possible case, I'm still going to be making money on these coins, even if I don't make it back until, let's just say, 2027. So as we know, buying all at once is never a really good idea, all right? That's where dollar cost averaging at the right time is super helpful. So the plan is to use the narrative index trackers and the Bitcoin cycle clock, both available, of course, in the private community, and technical analysis tools like the TWAP to locate decent entries, as I'll about to do in just a moment. So I'll be following a pretty strict 25% by 4 DCA plan, where I'll buy these coins over the course of the next few weeks or even months depending on if the technical indicators, of course, say it's a good time to buy. So here are a few coins that I'm willing to buy right now. We'll look at each narrative one by one, but I'll give you the quick breakdown here on what I'm looking at when it comes to AI coins, particularly Render first of all. Now, what we've got here is the TWAP, or the time-weighted average price. Now, this just takes the last 12 months and gives us a fair value of the coin based on the last 12 months. And you can see here, we have just spiked up to the fair price. So obviously buying beneath it's always a good time to buy, and buying above it, of course, you are buying at a somewhat overheated price, okay? We're also comparing that with this. This is the narrative index. So this is all the AI coins roughly. And this tells us a different sort of story where price can't really tell us all too much, okay? So there would have been a good time to buy down over here based on the narrative index, and also over here where it spiked down, you can just see where Render went down to about $3.40. So in combination, we of course can pick up good entry or good exit levels when other people can't quite see that. And lastly, the RSI, okay? So the relative strength index, when this thing is around the green line, that's of course oversold, which could potentially be a good entry for us. And you can see right now the RSI line in blue is above the sort of moving average line in orange, which is an indication of bullish momentum. Of course, it's still underneath the midpoint here of 50, so it's a decent time to buy. So overall, the story I'm getting for Render is it wouldn't be too bad to DCA right now. A much better story, I think, for buying for Near Protocol. You can see here well beneath the TWAP line. We are, of course, seeing the same index as we saw over here for Render in the AI index. I do think we'll likely chop in between these two lines here, possibly until we eventually break out in good market conditions. So I do think we do see some potentially more downside. And of course, the RSI here is much more suited to be oversold. So of course, I think buying heavier into a Near Protocol right now is a smarter decision than buying more into Render. Likewise, buying Ondo, I think, is also a good option right now as well. It is, generally speaking, oversold, and this will be a common theme apart from Plume across all the altcoins in this portfolio. So moral of the story, to cut a very, very long story short, I do think I'm going to be buying every single coin in this portfolio, the first 25%, right now, and a smaller amount into Plume, so 10%. I'll be tracking all of these coins for you guys publicly down below. I'll give a link to this, which is the watch list on CoinMarketCap, and when I make my buys, I'll be making this in this CoinStats portfolio here. I'll also leave the link to this down below for you guys to track at all times. Like Vandal says here, I don't think people understand this, but buying is easy, holding is easy. The difficult part is selling or cashing out and realizing your gains. So what am I doing here to signal when it's a good time to sell or take some profits in these coins? Well, funnily enough, it's the complete inverse to these tools. When it's obviously undervalued or oversold is when we buy. When it's overvalued or, of course, overbought, that is when we sell. So waiting for these indicators to signal that we are towards the top of a particular move. But what we also have in the private community to really give us a helping hand is this. This is the Bitcoin cycle clock I've created, now incorporating 16 individual indicators, all to give us a score in the bottom right corner based on this grading system here to say if it's cheap, good time to buy, or if it's overbought or warning, of course, a good time to sell. And you can see here, it does a really good job of doing that. Plus, it's also customizable. Now, this will be available in the private community here in the coming days. I'll make a YouTube video on it when it is available to the public. However, I must say that when this thing signals warning or overbought up here, I will be looking at my portfolio and all of these altcoins and asking myself, have any of these, in combination with the narrative index, right, the group of coins themselves, have they pumped? Have they gone up 1, 2, 3, or 4x reasonably recently? If they have, taking some profit from those and holding some cash to redistribute into other narratives that may not have had that yet may be a good idea. So that's it. That's my entire plan laid out in one intro video. The rest will just cover up-to-date announcements and news and changes and so on, okay? You must understand something though. If I could, I would just buy and hold, but that wouldn't make for a very good series. And I do want to make a very important point. I'm not using 10,000 real dollars just yet. I don't have the capital to do that. It is tax season here in Australia, so I need to save and be very, very cautious of that. Once I do have the capital, I will be using it. Now, Some may say it's a pointless series. I don't think so, because I have much more than $10,000, I believe, on the line. I have my reputation on the line. If this does fail for whatever reason, then I think $10,000 being lost is probably the best possible situation in that case. And so I do hope you understand that I have the best intentions. I'm not going to be making a decision that I don't think is truly going to benefit the portfolio. Why would I do that, right? So with that being said, thank you all for watching this video. I will keep you informed. Make sure you are subscribed to follow along, and all the best. Talk to you soon.